Summer was coming to its end, and rainy and dank autumn was approaching. Megan stood at the window and watched the sunset. She was very sad and sorrowful, and for good reason. She was worried about financial problems and the impetuous marriage of her only son. In addition, the woman was afraid of impending retirement because she had no extra income. Megan constantly complained to her husband about her idle son, who did not only not work himself, but also brought his pregnant wife to their home. Even though Polly began to make a significant contribution to the family budget, Megan still considered her daughter-in-law a sponger. In her opinion, her computer work was strange, and she repeatedly hinted to Polly that she should find a normal job and not disgrace the family. Megan's husband was a kind man and tried every time to calm an angry wife. He felt that they should accept their son's choice and be happy that his daughter-in-law was making and earning good money. One day, Polly overheard one of these conversations. Megan had not heard her daughter-in-law come home, so she was unashamedly insulting her. The young woman knew that her mother-in-law not only disliked her, she really hated her. And no matter how Polly will earn and look like, her mother-in-law will always look for flaws in her. Polly herself did not think that she was bad. On the contrary, she was kind and responsive, ready to help. Polly stood in the hallway and thought that she would want to live separately very much. But her husband did not work, so they could not afford to rent an apartment. In addition, soon she would have a baby. Thinking of her husband, she felt hurt. She was pretty sure that he did not want to seek a job and looked for vacancies to get Polly away from him. They got married when they hardly got to know each other because Polly accidentally got pregnant. And now she regretted it very much because Tom turned out to be a mama's boy who was used to living on everything prepared. With these sorrowful thoughts, the woman went to her room so she would not have to see her mother-in-law. When it was time to give birth, Polly arrived at the hospital alone, as Tom refused to accompany her. After a few hours of difficult labour, a boy was born. Tom and his parents arrived only 2 days later. As soon as Megan entered the room, she began to resent her daughter-in-law's appearance, as usual. But the worst thing began when the newly minted grandmother saw her grandson. Penning with disgust, Megan shouted that such an ugly baby could not be born in their family, and now she was sure that Polly clearly cheated on her son, and the child is not from him. She scornfully called her daughter-in-law terrible words and went out into the hallway. Her husband hurried after her, unquestionably. Tom remained in the room, silently examining the child. There was a large birthmark on the baby's forehead, and his thick hair was black. At the same time, both Polly and Tom were blonde. After a few minutes of examining the baby, Tom shook his head squeamishly and left without a word. Polly was in such shock that she didn't immediately believe what was happening. She still stood and waited for her husband to come back, but he didn't. She called him, but he did not answer the phone. Polly lay on the bed and burst into tears. And a few days later, Tom didn't come to pick up Polly and their son on discharge day. Polly's parents were on vacation in another country, so she asked her friend to take her home. But her mother-in-law wouldn't even let her on the doorstep. Instead of that, she simply threw the suitcase with the girls' belongings out onto the street. Polly tried to talk to Tom, but she just wasn't allowed to do it by her mother-in-law, and he didn't want to. Polly had no choice but to go to her friend. Back in the car, she still hoped her husband would try to stop her, but he didn't. He just stood by his mother and watched as the car, with his wife and child, drove away. The man believed his mother's words and was afraid of losing his allowance. A few days later, Polly's parents returned from vacation. They were shocked by what had happened. The woman returned to her birth family, and her father and mother helped her to recover from such a blow of fate. They took care of the baby, who was named Alex, and Polly worked all the time. As a result, 4 years later, the woman moved into her own apartment. By that time, Tom and Polly were divorced, but the status of single mother did not scare her. She did everything to create a better future for her son. The boy was growing up, and one day Polly told him how his father had treated them. He had seen pictures of the man and knew he would never forgive him, even if he begged on his knees. The boy was very talented and had dreamed of becoming a doctor since childhood. He went to medical school and became a pediatric cardiac surgeon. At 30, Polly's son was a qualified specialist. He had a wonderful family, and Polly was very proud of him. And Tom had never achieved anything in all the years. After Polly, he married a second time, very late, nearly 50 years old, and to the same lazy woman and lover of living at someone else's expense as Tom himself. Megan very much regretted that once kicked the hard-working Polly out of the house. Tom had a son in that marriage. The boy was often ill, and at age 6 he was diagnosed with a heart defect. When Tom, with his mother and son, came to the cardiologist for an appointment, they froze in shock when they saw the doctor. An exact copy of Tom stood in front of them, except for the black hair and the pale birthmark. Alex also recognized them because, as a child, he often looked at the pictures of his relatives who had treated his mother and him so cruelly. Without giving a word that he recognized them, the doctor examined the child, reviewed the medical records, and scheduled the day of surgery. After the appointment, Tom sent the mother and boy home and stayed waiting under Alex's office. He wanted to apologize for past mistakes. Suddenly he saw Polly in the hallway. Time was merciless to her, but she still looked very impressive in her 50 years. She recognized him too, but without a word she walked into her son's office. Tom looked faintly at the door, behind which his ex-wife had disappeared, and he went to the exit. The day of the operation came. After several hours, Alex came out of the operating room and said that everything went well. Tom tried to call the doctor his son, but Alex sternly said to him that he is only his son's attending physician, and then left the room. Tom was resentful because he wanted so much to have a grown-up and successful son, and now he blamed everyone around him, not realizing that it was his fault that his own son didn't want to know him.